you can save up to 2 terabytes in data. I use it for all my projects, all my files, all my videos, everything that I do. It's pretty much here. I don't. Back when I was in college, I didn't even bring a book bag. I just brought one of these because it's just easier. So that's one of the things. Now, I know staff, if you have the time, well, I put it in the lessons as well, which I'll go into in just a minute, but I'm taking all my data and what I'm teaching from this book right here. It's Teach Yourself Unity. It's really handy. You can pretty much learn everything that I'm about to teach in all my lessons through here, but I'm also going to take it up and do several different things with it. So next thing I want to show you is how the classroom is set up. So on our Google Classroom page, we have the stream. I wish they can just change it to the home tab. Oh, Google Classroom. The chat is still disabled for, oh, what the heck? Interesting. Alright, let me fix that. It should be working. Okay, try now. I think I fixed it. Okay. If not, let's just chat through the Google Classroom. That could be a lot easier. We can do there. So back to the Google Classroom. Basically here is where I'm going to be posting all the material. Anything that I need to talk to you about quickly will probably be posted here, such as the live streaming link. For the time being, we can just chat here. If you need to message me anything, I'll just move this aside when I'm done here. For the classwork, live streaming link was right here. It should be the same one. It'll take you to, I believe it should just take you to the uploads of the page that I'm using currently, and then you just click that. But I think if Trish or someone will provide me with the password, then I'll just switch it up and I'll put it there. Okay, wait, someone's here. Who's here? Hey Trish, what's up? Thanks for joining. So the instructor announcements, they'll be found right here. Anything that I have to tell you, depending on the week, I'll be posting right here. The lessons, so everything of the lessons, all from the book here. I've scanned every single page for every chapter so far that you see. All you do is just click this, and I would say follow along. Open up this and have it set somewhere out the side, but make sure you're following on with me, because what we'll be doing next is diving into this stuff. So everything I'll be teaching for this current lesson will be following along on this 1 hour. Here is where we should be talking if we have anything to type to each other. Our assignment, so after the lesson, this is something for you to do on your own. It shouldn't be too hard. They will possibly progress to get harder, but not like, you know, you're losing sleep over it. Quizzes, they're mostly like true and false, multiple choice. And the files directory. If I have something I need you to download, not read, but just download to add to your files, that's where you're going to find it. Let's see. So that's that. So definitely just open up lesson 1 right now with me, as I'm going to switch over now to, I'm going to switch this out of the way so it'll be on my other monitor. And if you need to message me or anything, just meet me at the place where you just messaged me, Peter. That's cool. Or anywhere where I can get a notification. But also, let me see. Let me just double check that Unity is up. Sorry, not Unity. That the live chat is up for the YouTube before we begin. Hang tight. The live chat is up for the YouTube. No, it's not. Well, it should. It says it's up. Okay. Anyhow, so let's begin. Unity. what does everybody know about Unity? Basically, Unity is an engine. It's a workspace, for in short, that I like to call it. You can do a lot of different things on it. Most people make video games on it, but you can also use it for animation. You can use it for 3D modeling. You can use it for filming certain things because they provide you with cameras. So there's just a lot that you can do with the workspace. It's just how you do it. And there's also no right or wrong way about going about what you're trying to do in Unity, because there might be multiple ways to do something. So for those to get started, I actually have it downloaded already, but I'll just do it with you how to install Unity. So for those following along in the book, we are starting off on page 2. And we'll be installing the Unity Hub. So how do we do that? Alright, so first, you definitely want to type unity.com. I'm going to periodically be doing this magnifying lens thing, where I know that my screen is set to a certain resolution, so things are small. So I'll pull this thing out so you can see what I'm typing, or if I have to zoom into something. So you'll go to unity.com, and we'll be on this main page. And then what I want you to do next is I want you to go to hit Get Started. So the next thing you'll see on this page, it automatically takes you to business. So don't worry about business or that kind of account. You're going to want to worry more about individual. The reason being is that we're not putting out something right now to make money, and we're also not copywriting or doing anything. We're just strictly using it for personal use, if not maybe as a group. But we're not publishing anything. We're not looking to declare things to I wouldn't, you know what I mean? You wouldn't, whatever we're declaring, we're just strictly sticking with personal use. They do provide a student use, which is pretty cool, because during this quarantine, Unity's providing with premium lessons for free. So if there's something you want to learn in particular, they have particular lessons that you can download, and they already pre-made. So it doesn't really matter which one you do. You can do student or personal. I think if you do student, they might ask you for a .edu account. It's possible, but just for the sake of things going smoother and without answering all the student possible questions, let's just hit Get Started under the personal account. Actually, let me turn that off real quick. Oops. There we go. So there's first-time users and returning users. Let me just hit first time. I usually hit returning because it's just straightforward. They just give me what I'm looking for, which is the download screen. But let's just see what this page is all about. By downloading Unity, you confirm you're eligible for the terms and services. So just hit agree. Let's see what's up. Let's see what happens. Okay, cool. Even easier. So what you're agreeing to by their terms is this, and let me zoom it up real quick. That you do not make more than 100K in annual gross revenues, regardless of whether Unity is personal, being used for commercial purposes, or for an internal project or prototyping. Which chances are we're not. If we're already making that, I don't think that we're if we're already making something with Unity for 100K. Chances are we don't need the personal account. We already know what we're doing. You haven't raised funds of excess of 100K. You're not planning to use. You're not currently using Unity Plus or Pro plans, and I'll tell you, and we'll talk about Unity Plus in just a moment. And we've read the privacy, which they'll probably say that they don't harass you, etc., etc. Unity Plus is basically one of those accounts there. If you pay a little bit, Unity is free, but you can pay a little bit more per month to get 10 to 20%, maybe 30, 40, 50 off from the Unity store, which I'll go into later in the lesson. So just hit agree and download. I already had mine downloading down here. Let me just pull that up one more time. So you should see something like this called the Unity Hub. And let me just click it so we can all do this all together, so I'm not sending you out on your own and you asking like, oh, well, what do I click here? What do I click there? So we have the Unity. So let me close this out. We don't need that for a moment. We have the license agreement. It'll ask us about the terms, so we'll just hit agree. And now it's going to ask you, just like any program when you install, where you're going to put it. This is your moment to decide. Do you either put all your materials on your hard drive? I don't suggest using USB, even if it's like through the roof with gigs, because some files, including video files, might say that they're only X amount of space, but then when you move it and you know you have the space, it won't transfer over. And I had something like that of a problem when I was teaching, that I had a coworker ask me if I can convert her video, which was realistically only 5,000 megabytes. She had 32 gigs in space on the USB. For some reason, it wouldn't transfer over. Not a problem with these. So, or you can install it towards your local drive, and in there it will, it'll just be like all your other files. Or if you have a SSD, you can save it in there, and all your files, when you're uploading or downloading, when you're opening and closing your program, it'll go quicker. So there's that too. So I'll hit install. It already says Unity's hub is running. Actually, that's my fault, because I actually have it already up ready for us to work. But let me just close it out, just for the sake of getting this install done. So we see the green bars going. Let's give it a minute. Let me just check up on you guys, make sure that you guys don't have any questions. Okay, chat's not working. Google Meet, okay. Cool. Alright then. So no questions so far. Pretty straightforward, right? All you have to do is just install it. We're through the first hump. And we are pretty much finishing on page 3 right now on the PDF. Now we're going to get to know the Unity editor. But before I do that, I want to show you some things on the Unity Hub. The Unity Hub is, consider it like a portal. It's your lobby. It's like before you get into doing anything, you need to check in with your lobby to see what you can do. So my Windows alert just pulled up asking about a firewall. You want to say yes. This is how Unity communicates with their systems and your computer. I don't necessarily look at it as something sketchy, but you do want to let the communications go, because if you want to work seamlessly with the program, you want to make sure anytime it needs to use internet that connections are going through. So install Unity 2019.3. So I want you to pay attention to this right here. This is the version of the Unity, and it's very important, and I'll talk about that later in a moment. So we choose our install location. I'll just hit, actually it asked me to install in my Passport, but I don't have it connected right now, so I won't actually put it there. So the next page, it should say create Unity ID. This is important. I'll tell you why. You want to make a Unity ID because later there's this thing called the asset store, which is what the Unity Plus is really based for. It's like you can download things and buy stuff from the user. Let's say I created a 3D model of a car. You download it for $15 or for free, and then you make a video game, and let's just say you make millions. I, the creator, cannot come after you and say, hey, buddy, you owe me money. No, that's not how it works. Basically, that's what the Unity Store is about. You can pay the creator, put it in your game. If you make your money, cool. They can't come after you. And while you have this Unity ID, you can still download other ones and log it in your assets, which then, if you like something particular, like, hey, I really like this cloud asset that helps me create clouds quicker, you can save it and it'll work there. So make sure you create an account. I already have one. Surprised it's not logging me in, but let me just like you, I'm doing all the stuff just from the beginning. I might not guess my password the right time. Cool, I got it. Alright. I don't know what this is about, but it's asking me about a micro game. Right now, don't do anything. This is something you can go back and do yourself if you want to particularly go towards some sort of style or theme. But we're not going to do that in this. In this, I just want an empty 3D space. Um, Typically, this isn't how Unity launches. It actually launches a different way. But for now, just name your project whatever. I'll name it test. I'll name it, oh, see, I have to name it something else because I already have test. So I'll name it test 2, but you name it test, hit empty 3D, and hit continue. Me, on the other hand, I'm going to close this out because I'm going to show you a different view of what the Unity Hub should look like, or it probably will look like after you do this first initial install. That's probably what's going on here. Because we installed it first, it's showing us a different face. So you hit continue, I'm going to X out, I'm going to go back to the Unity Hub. Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm not used to that one. Let me, Unity Hub. They always change up the way that it looks, and that's not the one I'm used to. Okay, whatever. That's fine. Oh, you can skip the install wizard. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to do in the first place. Come on. Okay. Oftentimes Unity does crash out and things like that happen, so let me just close it and start over real quick. It's okay. Just make sure when we actually dive into into creating things that you save often, so that way it's not that much of a frustration, because you definitely don't want to go through certain things again. Can I skip? Okay, it won't let me skip. Just I'm gonna save it in my downloads, install. It's making me do that again. Okay. Sorry, let me just do this real quick. Okay. I still don't know what that's about. Okay. So just choose empty 3D, name it my first game, that's fine. Hit continue. I don't know why it's showing you the video. So apparently it's still downloading. You'll know it's time when the Unity button appears. So let's give it a second. We are on page 5, by the way. So those following in the book, while we're waiting for this to load, I want you to see. So basically, the prompt should look like the one in the book. It should say new project, your location, organization, which doesn't really matter, and then your choice of 3D, 2D, your analytics being on or not. That's something I'll get into later. You can also see in the picture there's new open in my account. My account should always have your account logged in, and projects and learn I'll talk to you about in a minute. So learn is like another tab where it allows you to do those projects that we talked about earlier in the beginning, and projects is where you find your stuff. So looking at page 5 now. Okay, let me see. I don't know why it's not working. So looking at page 5, what we just did is created a project. We named it. Oh my god, this is such. Ah, here we go. Skip wizard. There we go. See, that's what's supposed to happen. Cool. Perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to show you. So on this screen in particular, let me turn my magnifying glass on. We see a couple things. As earlier I mentioned in the book, this is where the new and open is. So VB, that's my name. I'm logged in. Good to go. Over here is your settings, your licenses, and typically speaking, this is what your personal account is, what this license means. So basically, you're able to work anywhere. So let's say you go work at your friend's house. You can log in and your license will be cool to use and whatnot. Sometimes you might need to manual activate it, say you don't have internet. That's what that's about. Activate new license. Fairly easy. It's just renewing it. Not a big deal. You just click it and it'll do it for you. General, that's where where your folder's installed. I chose downloads. You can choose wherever you'd like. But let's go back. I want to show you something really important, and I got to go back to the Unity page just to show you this too. Our installs. These are the different versions of Unity that I have on my computer. Every now and then Unity creates a new update. Though it is good, it oftentimes can bring problems. For example, if I am working in the version 2018.2, hold on, let me get that zoomed in. So if I'm working on 2018.2.14 F1, I'm saving all my work. I've been doing it consistently for 2 weeks on this program. And then later I open up the Unity editor, which I'll show you in just a minute. And the version is 2018 2.17. My stuff might not transfer over completely and properly, in the sense of Unity just might have gotten a new script and got rid of the old one that version was particularly using, so now your objects don't have color to them or whatever, you know what I mean? So that's why you want to make sure whatever version we're using going forward, I think our best version that we should all use, it should be, whatever you guys download, let me know as a consensus, and then I will work with that version, and we won't download the new ones, we'll just stick with that one. But another thing I want to show you is, just in case that you download the wrong version, you can, let me show you, let me just magnifying glass, just type in Google, and then go right here and then type Unity versions, and you'll see download archive. Now this download archive allows you to download another version of Unity if you need an older one, for example. So here's 2019 3.11. That's the one we should be using. That's the most latest one. I think when you download it, you should be able to get it. So that being said, let me know what we're all using, and I'll stick with that, and we'll all do that one together. If you need, I've liked other ones in particular. I would like to advocate for, but I would rather. I mean, if you figure out how to install Unity and jump around the Unity hub, feel free to download some of the older ones because there's nothing wrong with them. The 2018, I believe, the 14 one was a really good one. I really enjoyed using that one. It was very stable, didn't crash, and all this new fancy stuff sometimes Unity adds can be a problem on your computer. So, just wanted to make that a note so you can know about the versions. Now, while we're on this page, some of you might have already had Unity open up the project. I'm just going to show you this. It's literally the same thing you guys did earlier, but I'm just going to do it a different way. If you happen to see this screen instead of the one we saw earlier, it's all the same thing. We have our 2D for our 2D planes, X and Y, and then our 3D, which is X, Y, Z axis. Z being the third one, so that's how we get 3D. But let's just do 3D. Name our project Test 3, because I already have Test 2. It'll download here. That's cool. Whatever. I'll hit create. Now we wait for a little bit. So what Unity's doing, and you'll know Unity's doing this, is you'll see this little square appear, and in that square it'll also start doing a loading screen. If you want to take the time to get a drink or water or use the bathroom, feel free to take that time right now. While this loads, this can take about 5 to 10 minutes. It takes about, for me, about 5 minutes, maybe less. Some computers can take more. At University of Baltimore, they took like about 15. So I know that the good thing is we're all at home using our computers, and some of them might have, some of them can be quicker because we use our parts to it. But let's just give it a minute to wait. It's going to load up, and then we're gonna jump into actually learning at what we're looking at. So those of us following by the book, we are going to start at page 6 momentarily. I'm going to go get some water. So just as soon as this is loaded back up, I'll be right back. Excuse me. All right. Sorry for the wait. This can take a while. This can take a minute. The first time it should take longer than the second time, but this is basically what you got to go through every single time. But I'm very excited that I know there's a few. If you're staff watching this, I'm excited because I know a few of you wanted to learn Unity. And if you're a student watching this, even better because the moment you learn some of the basic stuff, it's just so much fun to get down and start creating anything really. I really hope when it loads, it shows me this one tab that it didn't when I first tried to make a lesson video. Okay, perfect. Here we go. Let me just move myself. Okay, cool. Oh, this is so perfect. Okay. I'm not in anybody's way and you can see everything. Okay. Generally speaking, when we launch Unity, hold on, let me do the magnifying glass. We will see this Unity editor update check. It'll probably tell us the new version is installed, but while we're getting the ball rolling, make sure we all have the most updated one. It's probably telling me that I need to get 2019 3.11. That's fine. You all might have that installing it, and I'll catch up with you if that's what we decide to do. But for this, for argument's sake, right now, I'm going to just hit skip new version. In most cases, this prompt shouldn't appear, and it's really not a big deal if it's not. The big deal here is our first thing that I need to show you. We need to make sure our Unity version control. Oh my God, can you see it? Oh, there it is. It's on the top right, top left corner. If you want to look up right, top left corner. It says Unity 2019 1.114. Every time we log in, you have to make sure that that number matches the one we decide on. So if we're going to decide on 2019 3.111 or whatever it was just a moment ago, that's the one we need to make sure that when we open our project we see. Otherwise, you're going to run into that issue where maybe you need me to check something in your project. Then I will have to open it. And if I'm opening the wrong version, I not only open your version to a different version, but then it automatically saves it. Even if I don't save over, like say I open it and then it's like, do you want to save as I close out? Even if I don't, it still saves yours as the last version used. So we have to make sure that we version control, version control, version control. Make sure it's always the same. Now, Unity is a couple windows. Let's see, let me close out the magnifying glass. The first, I'm just going to name them. And on the book, we are on page 8. I will be starting with page 8, but I'm going to name them all first, but we'll start with the project view first. The first one we're going to talk about is the projects tab right here. Okay? Let me magnify it so we could all see the one I'm talking about. It says right here, projects tab, alright? This is, sorry, before I jump into what it is. First one is projects tab, followed by the hierarchy tab. And if you're listening and you want, if you want, take the time to write these down because then there's going to be more information as I go over them. We have the hierarchy tab. We have the inspector tab. Then we have the scene tab over here. It's kind of hard to see in the top left corner. Then we have the game tab. Okay, so these what is it, 5 tabs are going to be your primary workspaces that we're going to be dealing with. There's also one more. I'll just name it out right here, the asset store, but we're going to do that one last. So for now, let me just leave it on scene. I'm going to get rid of my magnifying glass for you. Oops. There you go. Okay. So let's start with the projects over here. Oh, wow, that's actually really small on the stream version. Okay, let me do that. That'll be better. Hold on a minute. Okay, cool. That's still small. Maybe one more? Okay, that's fine, I guess. So on our projects tab, we have always, when we create a new project, Unity will give us 2 things. One, the packages, which I don't really mess with, because that's just things in the background to help Unity run, and our assets. Generally speaking, when Unity makes us a assets folder, they're going to add only one folder in there, and that's the scenes. So I want you to see how Unity saves each file. Unity saves each of our workspace as a scene, as they call it. Or in my case, I call it a level. But for Unity lingo and terminology, we're going to call it a scene, so we're all on the same page. And the way to know what scene you're on is 2 ways you can do that. You can look up here, right above the hierarchy. It'll say sample scene. And you could look at the name of your scene up here, top left corner, next to our version control. Sorry, this is really, the magnifying is a little bit weird, but yeah, it'll say sample scene. So here is how Unity saves your files. These folders are actually real folders in your computer. Unity likes it that if we're going to, let's say, I'm going to add a folder, I'm going to add like a music file, right, to that folder up there. It wants me to drag and drop it through Unity. It doesn't want me to go through the back door of like opening it up through program files and, you know, finding it all there and dropping it there. It wants me to open it. It wants me to go through Unity first. Otherwise, it gets upset, and sometimes, yes, it does crash. So that's how we're going to import stuff. We're going to drag and drop things into the assets folder. But before we do that, I want to teach you how to make more folders within Unity the right way, not through the back door. So typically what I would do, and every time I create a new program or a level, I right-click Assets, I'll go to Create, the very first one, and then I will scroll down, I will click Folder. And then here I will name the folder several things. One of them I will name Sounds. I will go do that again, just so those that, if I went too quick, I'll right click the assets. You can do this on the Mac, by the way. It's a command click the assets, hit create, go to folder, and then let's create another one. So I have scenes, sounds, and let's make this one materials, which we will go over what that is in, I think, either our second or third or fourth lesson. Sorry, I have to. Okay, so materials. Another one I want to add, models. Those of you that are probably wondering, like 3D models. So back again, let's hit folder. I'll go back down here and I'll type models. So generally speaking, you can actually add one more. My Prodigy friends that are learning through Jacob, this is where I would suggest, if you're going to make a folder, name it scripts. You'll name it scripts, so that way that's where all your scripts will go later. So everything, you want to keep things organized, because as you start creating, you'll see that you'll have in no time 500 cubes, and you have cube named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're like, okay, it's crazy. I just need to organize things. So that's how we do that, and that's how we organize our project. So let me close this out. Put her back to how it was. We'll leave that alone. I'll get rid of my magnifying glass. And I'm going to move up to hierarchy. The best way for me to describe hierarchy to you, and that is on page 10, is that this is what your level contains. Right now, for example, our level contains, as you can see, a main camera and a directional light, which correspond to, you see in the middle, hold on, let me pull back. Do you see right where my finger, I'm using the direction, you see there's a sun and there's another camera in the back? That is the only two objects we have in the scene. Otherwise, there's nothing. It's just emptiness. It's empty space. Imagine if you were, think of space, real life. Imagine you were floating in space. This is probably what it would probably look like, because there's just nothing until you actually get to something. So see, it's just a whole empty nothingness. So everything that is listed in our hierarchy, hold on a minute, that's, you can't see, will be listed here. You can right click things and you can copy, paste, rename, duplicate, delete. I will talk more about these, create empty 3D objects, all of these things. They are tools for you in Unity, but in hindsight, they're objects. And that's how we're going to call them. So if you're going to say, hey, my light's not working, I'm going to ask you what kind of light. And then you can say, oh, the object light. That's in, so that's what I mean by that. You can delete it, and then as soon as you delete it, you'll notice that things change. So I deleted the light. So as you can see, the light disappeared. I'm going to Control Z that real quick so it comes back. Unity has a lot of shortcuts on our keyboard there that if you learn it quick, it's easy to navigate this screen, because it can take some time to do certain things the way you want, or if you want something placed so perfectly that otherwise it wouldn't, be perfect if it didn't stand out. You got to learn these shortcuts. So I will be teaching those later as well, but let's move on towards the next one, the inspector. So the inspector is another way of saying properties. For example, let me hit the directional light. It'll work best in this example. So when I hit directional light, notice it turns blue. And in my inspector tab, I have all these settings. It's really blurry for you to see, but this is what it looks like. These settings are basically properties, as I'll call them, and they'll allow you to change certain things. For example, I can change the color of the light. Let's make it red. Now, although you can't see in the scene because there's nothing for the light to bounce off of for it to show you that there's red light, but we changed the light of the sun, or directional light, to red. And there's all kinds of settings for every single thing. These things under the inspector are called components. So if I was to say the component under the directional light is red, you would know that I'm talking about that whatever object I have, I've set it to red. So, and we will get into lights. I'm going to do a whole topic on that, because lighting is really fun, especially when you can automate it and we can like set it to do things itself, to act like its own light, maybe a light bulb of some things. So that's the inspector tab, and we will definitely be jumping into inspector a lot more. One thing I do want to point out to you is the transform. Every single object typically has one, unless it's, I don't know any time I've seen one not have it. But basically the transform is where the object is, 1, placed, 2, its rotation, and 3, its scale. And it's broken down into X, Y, and Z. Depending how you're looking at it, Z and X axes are the same. But here, let me show you a better visualization. The Y axis of any object that I click will always be the green arrow. The Z axis will always be the blue, and the X will always be the red. Notice I'm just clicking, I'm holding on to the X axis, and it's switching the location up here. I know it's really hard to see, but just, maybe if you want to rewind that back, or here, I'll do it one more time. Now look up there and watch. See how you can see the numbers are shifting? We're just changing the location of the X axis. Absolute 0 or absolute default is typically known as 0 for the X, 0 for the Y, and 0 for the Z. Z is our third axis. If we were to do a 2D game, it would only be X and Y that we'd be using, and Z wouldn't really be important in that. So that's the inspector and transform. We will be talking about the transform, I believe, in lesson 2, if not 3, under the models. Let's see at the next one. The scene tab. So you've seen me actually use the scene tab actually a little bit before I even jumped into it. If it's unclear, the scene tab is basically where we are playing with our objects. It is our sandbox. This is what every single developer sees, whether they're using the Unity engine, whether they're using Unreal Engine, whether they're using the Cry engine. They all have a scene box somewhere where there's grids, there's positions, there's everything that they are trying to model and move around and intentionally put for you, the player, to later find. They are making it in the scene mode. In the scene mode, they have a few toolbars, and I'm going to pull up right here just so you can see them. I'm really sorry if they come out weird, but the first one is shaded. So this right here is how you see your objects. I will remind me to go into this when we go into models, because right now it's not going to make sense, and I'm only working with so much time that I will get into this later. This is just basically how we see our objects. So if I showed you this book, you see a full rendering of this book. If I changed it to shaded wireframe, just for this example, just so you have an idea what these are, this will change the book just to strictly. You won't see the color. You only see the You only see where the lines go of the box, just the outline of it. That's basically what these things are. It allows you to see your games in different. I wouldn't say perspectives, but it shows you just different camera. I guess. I'll have to get back to you on what's the best terminology for it, because now it's bothering me. But that's, you'll basically be able to see things in a different way instead of normal view. Some of you, like, let's say if you're creating something in 3D and maybe one side of the square is right, but then the back is like not even a square, it's just like hidden behind the square, all jumbled up. That's like what that would be useful. You can like see where the wires are going in there. The next one is 2D. So when you click 2D, it shows you the game in 2D view. This is really helpful if you're just trying to move shapes together, but also you're able to put later, I'll show you, we can create like a main menu. And main menu text is actually used on a 2D plane, but it's tucked away somewhere in a 3D plane. We'll go over that later, but it all makes sense later when we cross that bridge. The next one is one of my favorite buttons. It's the lighting. So this is how you can turn, when we start actually working with lights and putting light bulbs and spotlights and stuff to the scene, that's how you turn it on and off, because sometimes you want to see what your scene looks like without the light, and then see how far the light actually reaches a certain object. The next one we have is toggling audio on and off. This one, as you know, just it's pretty straightforward. If you have any audio in the scene, you'll turn it on and off. This is basically different kinds of layers that you have in the scene. This will make more sense once I show you some more examples of it. Right now I have nothing that I can show you what these really mean. But basically, for example, post-processing, you can add certain settings to your camera that instead of seeing it like let's just say like N64 game, you can see something like it'll put a camera filter on it so it looks like more of like a polished AAA title. Things like that. Fogs and skyboxes. A skybox is basically, notice this blue light. This is a default skybox. So if I was to create a game right now just using this skybox, when the character looks up, that's all they're going to see. That's what it means. So that's it for the scene view. We will be definitely jumping in between a lot with the scene view and and all these other ones. Another one we should talk about is the game view. So the game view is basically when we hit this play button up here, it will launch the game view. Right now our game has nothing, and the only thing it has is just this main camera, which is focusing into this direction. But again, we have nothing, so that's what it's looking at. Nothing really. So every time we hit play in the game view, the main camera will point to whatever it's aiming at. One thing I want to show you right here is, you'll notice it'll say display 1. What that means is that when we are working with our main camera, I'm just going to show you this briefly because we'll get back into this later. The main camera is always set to display 1. You could always change it, like let's say for example, I'm going to change the main camera to display 2. Notice it says no displays rendering. Well, that's because our game view is set to display 1. So if we do to 2, now these cameras are connected. This can get fun because I'll show you maybe for our second lesson, like we can have like a helicopter chase another plane, and we can put that camera on one helicopter and watch it from one view, and then do another view from another, just to give you an idea of why you would want to have different displays. One big thing we need to learn, and please remember this is super important. If I hit play, for example, right, and the game is in play mode, you only want to play the game. Do not move objects. Oh, hold on, let me move this back to display 2. Sorry about that. Do not, like, watch this, for example. I hit play, and then I change the display 2. When I hit unplay, it's going to change it back to what it was before. That's the reason why it does that is because Unity wants you to know this. When you're creating a game and you're ready to play it, it's time for you to stop editing. You are not playing and editing. You are just playing what you're creating. If you want to edit it, Unity tells you one thing. You got to get out of that play mode and go back to editing and then play. So, for example, watch this. I'm going to hit play. I have my camera target display set to 2. It should be set to 1. I hit play. Now I'm going to try to fix it while I'm in play mode. Watch what happens. So I'm right here. I'm going to hit display 1. Boom. Now let me just unhit play. I'm done playing around. Let's unhit play. Notice it goes back. See? So that's what we have to do. We have to make sure that any edits we do before we're ready to play, we do beforehand before we hit play. And we're on that screen. Okay? So that's about it for all the tabs. I just want to show you one last thing, and then I'm going to tell you about the assignments for you. We did not get into, by the way, 16 and 17. I'm going to actually save that for another time. We are on page 14. You can read 15. It'll actually tell you more about the different kinds of buttons they have here. Maximize on play is pretty straightforward, but there's more that you can look into. I want you to look into the asset store. And if you don't have that, for those following along, you can hit Window anytime and just go to Asset Store or Control 9. Or any of them matter for a fact. You can actually close all these. You can right-click every tab and hit Close. Or you can also rearrange them any way you want. I'm just going to get rid of the magnifying glass for now, just so you can see. I like going over here to the corner where it says Layout. I know it's really small on your screen, but pardon me. They have different layouts. I particularly love the tall one, and I'll tell you why. When I hit tall, I move this all the way to the side. I'll drag this down so our folders, see how our folders are going from big view to little view. And then I have my inspector on the right. I have my hierarchy right here, my projects right here, and my scene and game next to each other. But I take it up a notch. I do this. I click tab, click and drag it all the way to the bottom and let go. Now you can see both things that you're using. That's how I like to see sometimes, like I need to see real time what I'm doing, and you can do it that way. So that's over here if you want to look into that. Definitely get the layout and style that you want, because it'll definitely make your life a lot easier finding certain things. Alright, let's go to our assets store. So let me put my magnifying glass on for you one last time. Okay, cool. So our assets store. Generally speaking, you should already, if you haven't logged in over here on your account, see that's me, you can do so over here, I believe. Make sure you see your initials or whatever you named your account. And over here is our asset store. We'll see our categories. Typically speaking, I like going to 3D, but there's all other ones you can download. And always check out their spring sales, because sometimes they literally just give out stuff for free that later down the road I've seen them cost like $500, and I'm like, wow, I am so thankful that I got it for like 20 bucks. And it's just, there's nothing wrong with using assets. In fact, it's the best way for you to learn easily, because if you just try to start everything from scratch, being like, okay, I'm going to start 3D modeling from scratch. I'm going to start Unity from scratch. I'm going to start scripting from scratch. It's going to be a long time before you, or it could be, or not, or, you know, it's just going to take a lot of your time to really learn the ins and outs of just what Unity can provide. So, yeah, you can change the pricing to like free, for example. Let me just set that to 0. Yeah, we're not paying for anything here. But yeah, you can change it to free, and then you can find certain things. Let's say like you want to buy, let's say, okay, let's just type in, just for argument's sake, let's type in free car. Okay? Notice some of them say free, so you can just download whatever you see that you like. So I'll just click this for argument's sake. Quick look. It'll tell you what version to use. Most say 5.6 or higher. I don't think you guys are going to dwell anything lower than that. So you just hit download, and what's really cool is it'll download first, and then after that it'll say import. So all you do is hit import, and this will automatically import into your project. See? And we'll talk about what each of these things are. I don't expect you to understand what it is, but if you can, if you dive in and try it out for yourself and figure it out, kudos to you. You'll definitely be ahead in understanding Unity. So just hit import, and then guess where it goes? Right to your assets. And you will find all your stuff here. So that's all I wanted to share for today. I don't want to put any more new material out there for you this very second. I mean, you can definitely jump into the lessons that are posted, but I don't want to bombard you with new material, because this is what I want you to know day one going in. I don't want you to be overwhelmed by it. I don't want you to be intimidated by it. It does look intimidating. A lot of stuff that we're going to do, it will be fun. It can be also tedious. It could be a lot of copy and pasting. But this is what I want you to know for day one. I want you just to be able to download it. I want you to understand what these tabs do, and what their purpose are for you, and that's it. And then next week we will dive in more on, let's see what the chapter says, game objects. So yes, I will show you more. So chapter 2 will be working with 3D and 2D objects. We're going to be diving into how to create them, and we'll talk about scaling and all that. So this will be the first time. So next week will be our first block that we'll be putting towards the scene, and our first building block, as they say. So now for your homework or at-home assignment. I don't know if I posted in the PDF the main lesson 1 or if I did it separately, but you can find that on the Google Classrooms. Start with making sure you read the lesson. After that, try doing the quiz and then do the exercise. And then if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I answer relatively quickly at any given time unless my phone's dead. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you for tuning in for my first lesson. Alright. Let me just make sure I hit. Let me give you guys some time to, if you have any questions for me before I go. I'm going to close out my Google Meet. You can message me on Slack or on the Google Classroom if you are participating there. And thanks for your time. And just give you some time. Let me see if there's even anybody with me. Oh, Google Classroom. Okay, I see you. I see you. Give me a minute. Where did... Great. Nice. Thank you, Peter. Did you have any troubles installing it by any chance? Like, is there anything that did not make sense to you, or anybody else that was part of the class? Did you have any troubles installing it by any chance? Like, is there anything that did not make sense to you, or anybody else that was part of the class? Alright guys, I'm gonna close out the view. Thanks for tuning in.